finally got a haircut. Yay! Hello everyone, my name is Alyssa and welcome back to my channel, and today I am doing a May wrap-up. Yes, I actually read things. I don't know what that was, I'm so sorry. So May was a pretty decent reading month. I wish I could have gotten more in, but towards the end of the month, things got a little crazy. My kid got sick, my cat's sick. It's been a hot mess, but we're all hopefully on the mend. It's been a time. But I ended up finishing 3 books. I started a couple, so I'm going to talk about them today. So let's get on with it. So the first book that I completed was Keepers of the Lost City by Shannon Messenger. This is a middle grade fantasy about a girl named Sophie who has a gift of telepathy, and which is odd because, you know, no one understands what she's going through because she lives in our world. Until one day she meets a boy named Fitz who tells her, yeah, you're actually an elf. And it kind of just turns her world upside down. She has to deal with a lot of loss and grieving throughout this story, but she also has to deal with being part of a new society and a new community where she literally knows nothing. I really enjoyed this. I thought this was really entertaining. It was a fast read if I hadn't have been reading it for book club. But when I read it, I flew through the chapters. I really liked Sophie as our main character. I thought she was really down to earth. She definitely had a lot of things going against her and a lot of struggles, but she managed to overcome those struggles just by being her. Like, she didn't try to be anybody else for anybody. She was just her, and I appreciated that. My favorite character, though, was probably Dex. I love him. He's funny, he's loyal, he's super nice, and on top of that, him and Sophie should be a thing, because if it's not, I'm gonna have some problems. I also really liked Keith. Fitz was okay. I feel like we don't know a whole lot about him yet, but again, this is a very long middle grade series. And all in all, the big thing I enjoyed about this book was all the questions I had. Throughout reading this, there were just so many different things happening that I needed answers for, and most of them I did not get answers for. Hence why I have to read the rest of them. But we all really enjoyed this in the book club. It was a really fun read. I will say that at some points it got a little slow and repetitive, especially around like the school setting. I like a good school setting, but it has to keep moving. Otherwise it's gonna lose my interest real quick. But I think the thing that got really repetitive for me was the fact that Sophie was always getting either injured or sick. I understand she doesn't understand a whole lot about this world, and, you know, probably doesn't realize she's allergic to some unique plant in an elfin world. But it happened a lot. There was a lot of times where she would fall off something and get injured, or she'd eat something and it would be bad, or, you know, all those kind of things. And it did get a little repetitive, but I'm hoping in the second book and the rest of the books that doesn't happen, because obviously she's been there for a while, so hopefully we won't get any more problems. But it's weird because, like, I know that she doesn't understand the world, so obviously she's gonna have issues and probably get injured or accidentally poisoned a few times. But I think there was like 5 times she went to the nurse's office essentially in this school, and I was kind of like, this is getting a little repetitive. But that was really my only complaint. I really enjoyed this. I thought that it was a really good book, a good solid start to a series, and I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. The next book that I finished was Heartless by Marissa Meyer. This is a Queen of Hearts, Alice in Wonderland, that universe, that queen. Yes. And this is her origin story, or Marissa Meyer's version of her origin story. Obviously, we all know how this story is going to end because the Queen of Hearts is a villain. And it was really, really entertaining. There was definitely some things I was not a huge fan of, but we will get to that in a second. So this follows Catherine, or Kath, who dreams of becoming the best baker in Hearts. And she wants to open a bakery with her best friend / like maid. And unfortunately, her parents have other ideas and want her to marry the King of Hearts for, you know, obviously money, stability, and, you know, recognition is always a good thing. But obviously she doesn't want that. She wants to have a bakery. and she goes to a ball to meet the king, but also ends up meeting this guy named Jest, who is the court jester of the king, and obviously that's gonna get a little sticky. So obviously this is a romance. I had a lot of very grumbly teenage boys in my class, but I told them to suck it up. I went into this knowing this was going to be a romance. Like, that's, you know, not a problem when I know what I'm going into. And the fact that it's an origin story. I love a good villain origin story, especially when it's just so creative and so interesting. Marissa Meyer did a great job weaving the things that happened in Alice into here. And so some stuff that happened in Heartless you could pick out from the book and you're like, oh, that's how that happened because of this. Obviously, you know, it's not Lewis Carroll, but it reads a lot like his books because it's kind of crazy. But it was really fun to pick those things out and read about them and put the pieces together. Kath was an interesting character. I really was rooting for her in the beginning, and then she kind of got scary. And it was interesting because throughout the book there's like pepperings of how not very nice Kath is, and you kind of are like, well, maybe she's just having a bad day, but then it's all like, oh, well, actually. There was also the Mad Hatter, who was really interesting. He had an interesting take on him, although I will say I wish he was a tad crazier, but again, this is an origin story, so the Mad Hatter I'm thinking of is not the same as in this one, I guess. There was a lot of twists and turns in this book. I thought that the plot went pretty smoothly. I don't think there was really a whole lot of slow moments, and it moved pretty quickly. I mean, the romance parts, what are you gonna do? But the rest of the plot moved pretty steadily. I really liked the added element of the three sisters, which is a short story, I believe, or a poem of Lewis Carroll's that she added into the world, and I thought that was really cool and really unique, and really a fun, interesting take to add to this. Now, what I didn't like, the romance. So her and Jest were cute at the beginning. Then it got annoying. They were just so wishy-washy throughout this whole book. It was just the dumbest reasons too, and it was just so flip-floppy. That's the best way I could put it. Basically, Kath wants to be with Jest, but Jest is like, yes, I want to be with you, but I can't. You must marry the king. And she's like, but I don't love the king. I love you. And he's like, okay, let's get married. But wait, you must marry the king. It was so dumb. Like, y'all need to make up your minds because I can't deal with your petty arguments right now. And then, like, all the reasoning behind this banter was dumb. And honestly, the ending was a good, solid ending, but the reason she became the Queen of Hearts was so stupid. So many things could have been avoided, and you wouldn't have had to be the Queen of Hearts. Like, in my mind, it's so obvious not to do the stupid things you did. But what do I know? So all in all, I enjoyed this as well. I had a really hard time rating this one because I just couldn't decide if I loved it or not, so I gave it like the middle ground rating of 3.75 stars. So the next book I read in a weekend, and you can see the vlog either here or wherever it may be down there, I don't know, is Rules for Vanishing by Kate Ellis Marshall. I won't talk too much about this because I did a whole vlog, but I will give like a brief synopsis and my brief thoughts on it. So this is a paranormal ghost story, spooky forest adventure, also kind of a slasher thing. There's a lot of death in this book. So we follow Sarah, who is determined to find her sister Becca, who has been lost in the woods of Lucy Gallows, or Briar Glen Woods as it's called, and she is determined to go back and find her. And so a year after her sister's disappearance, she decides to do just that and go into the forest, and a group of her friends that they used to be really close, then they kind of separated after Becca disappeared. So they all get together and decide to go on this trip together, and obviously it doesn't go well. I really liked some elements of this, I will say. Honestly, it was very spooky, like super spooky, but the thing that I wanted most from this was more about the characters. Like when characters died, I didn't care. Because I didn't know them that well. Like half of the characters you didn't even get a backstory on, and I was kind of like, okay, well that sucks. Guess you're dead now. But what I really did love about this book was the interviews and like the video files, so like a transcripted video So it almost had that found footage movie kind of vibe. Kind of similar to like the Blair Witch Project. I've never seen it. Don't hate me. I am a chicken. Or like As Above, As Below. I don't know if you've ever seen that one. I unfortunately have seen that one and it was terrifying. Don't recommend it. Unless you like scary movies, then you'll probably love it. But it kind of gave me those vibes. I really liked, especially the first half of this book, was so spooky, so eerie, and I had so many questions onto how this was all gonna work out. And then the second half of the book came. The premise is that these characters have to get through these 7 gates through the forest in order to get to the end and get out. They got to 5, and then to me it just got to be lazy writing. Like the author was like, I'm already at 200 some odd pages, I'm just gonna wrap it up. And did it in the most obnoxious way possible. But all in all, it was a fun, quick read. I definitely was spooked. I got the ghost part that I wanted, and I gave this like a 3.5 out of 5 stars, I guess. It was okay, but it wasn't like mind-blowing or amazing. So the next couple books are ones I started, but I have yet to finish, and I plan on finishing next month, which obviously that's a thing. I don't know why I said that. I wheeze laugh, if anybody's ever noticed. It's awful. I sound like a grandma. See? So the first one I picked up and I haven't finished is Realmbreaker by Victoria Aveyard. I'm loving this. This is so good. I almost like don't want to pick it up because I don't want it to end. It's so dumb. I am now 185 pages into this and I love it. The characters are really interesting. The world is so intricate and crazy. The map alone has my mind blown, and then she's talking about them throughout the novel and I'm just like, I don't know what you're talking about, but I'm here for it. This is a story about a ragtag group of people who, after the heroes have failed on their quest, they have to pick up the pieces and save the realm. So in this ragtag team, there is a squire, an immortal, an assassin, an old sorceress, and a pirate's daughter. So they all have to save the world. And it's very, very Lord of the Rings-esque. There's a lot of moments I've been reading this and I'm like, that kind of reminds me of Legolas, kind of reminds me of Frodo, but it's like in the best way. It doesn't feel like a copycat, but there's definitely some very heavily inspired Lord of the Rings things, which is what she was inspired by with this book. And of course I have my Lord of the Rings bookmark, because, you know, matching. So yeah, I'm reading this, loving it, can't wait to finish it. And then finally I have Keepers of the Lost City Exile. This is the sequel to Keepers of the Lost City, the first one. I'm not very far. I keep forgetting I'm reading this because it's in a book sleeve. I usually don't keep my books in like those book sleeve things because I forget. So I'm reading this one too. I'm not very far. I'm on page 20. Look at me go. And this is a longer one, so this will be fun, but it's middle grade, so it's pretty quick to read, but I'm excited to read it. Also, like these covers, so I don't know if you guys know, but I am a sucker for covers that are drawn like this, like have like a, almost like a digital art kind of vibe to it. Sorry, my ring light's reflecting real hardcore. I love this art style, and I love these covers. I can't get enough. Anyway, that's me gushing about covers. Hi. This is quite the unorganized stack, but we're here. So these are all the books that I read / started in May, and I am so happy that I actually got things read this month. Granted, 2 of them had been started months ago. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Let me know down below what you read in May, and of course, subscribe if you want, and give a like if you want. And I will see you very soon in the next video. Bye-bye!